Well, I think you can't deny the extent of Europe's dependence on Russian gas. Overall, you're looking at around 40 to 50% of European imports actually coming from Russia. And individual countries within the European Union have even more dependence on Russia as a natural gas supplier. So, for example, when it comes to Germany, you're looking at around 65% of imports of natural gas into Germany actually coming from Russia. So, when it comes to answering the question, like has the US been right? Well, Europe definitely hasn't been diversifying away from Russia as a natural gas supplier.
Germany, as you mentioned, appears to be the most exposed to Russian gas. But I suppose the question is, could Germany do without Russian natural gas?
Well, I think what we need to understand first and foremost is that this is really a European problem rather than an individual country specific problem. If Germany would be struggling with its supply of natural gas, it would automatically pull supplies away from other parts of Europe, so that ultimately, again, this becomes a European problem. When it comes to answering the question whether we could do without Russian natural gas in the short term, if there was, for example, a complete stop to Russian flows to Europe, the short answer is yes. But this would obviously entail significant incisions into daily life, where we would be talking about measures that include industrial demand destructions, for example, in order to make sure that we can put adequate gas into storage for next winter.
So we're talking about having to handle rising gas prices, rising energy prices for Europeans. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes, precisely. So I think in the short term, again, if we're talking about a complete stop to Russian flows, you would obviously see gas prices skyrocketing even more than they have been now. So even today in the morning, gas prices grew by around 40 to 50%, purely on worries of adequate supply. So you'd see prices skyrocketing. And this is really the market trying to reduce gas demand from other sectors of the economy, such as, for example, from industry, in order to make sure that there's sufficient gas in the system so that we can put that into storage. So if we are going to see a complete disruption to Russian flows, this will just further intensify. You will need to see significant demand reductions in order for the market to balance.
And presumably that would mean having to source natural gas or something similar to it from elsewhere. What are the options that Europe has then?
The options are not many. You're obviously looking at LNG supplies, but the global LNG market is already quite tight, and Europe so far has not been very successful in trying to outprice, particularly Northeast Asian buyers of gas, so that you're looking at a very tight market overall. I think the shorter term answer is if we need to bridge a general supply disruption from Russia are going to be particularly focused on domestic supply. So we would need to be starting to ask questions with respect to Groningen and whether we're going to increase production there in the short term, but also with respect to, for example, domestic European production of coal and whether we're going to start up coal-fired power plants again.
So given all of this complexity that comes with trying to work without Russian natural gas, is it really realistic that the EU would impose a ban on it?
Well, I think when it comes to the possibility of it, absolutely. And I mean, it's still not being rejected by some member states. But I think policymakers need to be aware of the consequences of such a decision. From the way the market is looking right now, as I said, there is no real way to source an adequate supply of natural gas from other countries or from the global LNG market, which means that the only way that the European market can actually balance is through demand destruction. So you would need to see policymakers intervening in domestic markets in order to force industrials to actually shut down. The economic repercussions of this would obviously be quite significant. So this is a trade-off that European policymakers just need to be aware of in terms of what it means for natural gas prices and in terms of what it means for the aggregate economy in Europe.
Okay, Leonard Zbicki from Energy Aspects, thank you so much for bringing us your insights.
Thank you.